This is Eric Nelson with the Pixel Gaiden podcast. On episode 44, I discussed building a BMC64. And what that is basically is a bare metal C64. It's built with a Raspberry Pi 2 or 3. And it is a version of Vice that runs without an underlying operating system. So it runs with very low latency and runs, I guess, a lot more efficiently. I put this in this VIC-20 case. Now, I encourage you to go listen to that show. It goes into a lot more detail about how to build this and what it does. But I wanted to show that it's kind of easier to show the hardware visually than it is on a podcast. So I put it in this VIC-20 case, which is a square key, old style VIC-20 case. It has there's a Raspberry Pi and a BMC header in here. The BMC header I got on eBay for about $44. It basically connects to the Raspberry Pi, but allows you to use real ports like this, which is 2 joystick ports, a power switch, and a 12-volt standard power supply. And then that connects all to the Raspberry Pi and allows you to put it in a nice Commodore 64 VIC-20 case like this. And it utilizes the keyboard and everything. So anyway, I did want to show that I pulled this panel out of an old Commodore 64 because VIC-20s originally only have 1 joystick port. So I popped in this Commodore 64 plate in here. On the back, I mounted the Raspberry Pi backwards so that the USB ports would be available on the back so that I could plug in a thumb drive, and you can just put your games in and out on that so they're nice and easy to load up. I put an HDMI extension cord in here, and originally I had this mounted in the back. But I used Sugru, which was moldable glue, to mount this inside, so just the HDMI was sticking out. But when I would push the HDMI cable in here, it would flex these 2 pieces of plastic, and I didn't want to break this case. It's brittle, and I don't want to drill holes in it or anything like that. So I'm gonna re-engineer a way to do this down the road and make it better. And maybe move it over to here or something like that. I haven't really, this works for now, so I'm just going to use it. So the disadvantage of putting the Raspberry Pi in this direction is that the SD card is on the other side of the Pi in the back. Well, I'll show you this when I open it. But once you get it all set up, you really don't have to mess with it much, so I'm hoping that I don't have to open this all that often because the screw holes are starting to wear out. So anyway, if we take a look at this, I want to be very careful that I don't snap. The tabs I'm talking about on this are underneath here. They're right here. These 2 are broken off. There's one over here broken off. So there's only like 3 tabs left, so I don't want to break that off. But anyway, this is all the inside of the Commodore 64. As you can see, there's a Raspberry Pi here behind this cable. Let me make sure this is all set up nice and neat. So we have the Raspberry Pi here. That's connected with this HDMI extension cable that goes out of the back. And then there's this BMC header. The keyboard right here for the Commodore 64, or the VIC-20 in this case, plugs right into this header, right into this BMC header. This is a standard GPIO cable, flat cable that plugs into the header and sends all of the information for the ports and all of that. And then you have the LED. It actually does use the LED so that you can see it when it's powered on. And then right here is a USB thing that plugs into so basically you just plug in something in here and it will transfer power to the Raspberry Pi and power that as well. So you don't have to have a separate power supply. So the header kind of handles all sorts of things and makes it nice and neat. So I'm going to pop this back on very carefully so I don't break the tabs, hopefully. There we go. And I'm going to plug the HDMI in. And I'm going to plug the power cord in. And I'm going to plug a joystick in, although I'm not going to play a whole game or anything like that. I just kind of want to switch between all the different machines. One of the very cool things about BMC64 is it allows you to jump back and forth to different machines. So all the 8-bit Commodore machines are represented, at least I think, all the ones I know of. The Commodore 64, the VIC-20, Commodore 128, the Plus4, and the Commodore PET are all bootable on this. So you can see you can plug in any 9-pin controller. I'm just going to plug in this gamepad because it's what I got handy. So I'm going to boot this guy up. So I'm going to switch inputs to the Elgato. Hopefully this comes up nice and neat. Let's check it out. So I'm powering it on now. And I must have been playing the VIC-20 last, so here's that. So on my screen here, this is 4x3. This is highly configurable. I know on Elgato it kind of looks like a stretched out version, but it's just like Vice, it's highly configurable. Now, on the real Commodore keyboard, you're going to hit Commodore and F7, and that's going to take you into the Vice menu. From here, you have all the configurations. You can go into video and change all the video settings. You can do anything. Now, one thing when you first set up the BMC64, you do have to switch GPIO to GPIO configuration number 2. And that's going to give you the keyboard and joystick configuration, because without that, you're going to have to use a USB keyboard. If you don't have the BMC header, you can just use a regular old USB keyboard for that. So I'm going to go up to machine here. I'm going to show you how it switches machines pretty effortlessly. Now, when you first set this up, you do have to go get the ROMs. And a little hint, if you go and just download Vice, it will have a lot of the ROMs right in a build of Vice for you, and then you can just go out and find the other ones, the Commodore 128 one. I think I had to kind of hunt down the Plus4 ones, like all the ROMs, and you have to rename them a specific way. That's all on the website for BMC, which I will put in the YouTube notes here. But anyway, if I go to machine and I go to switch, we can pick the good old Commodore 64. And it gives you a lot of options here for video. I'm going to pick the PAL, let's do the PAL HDMI one. And ask you if you want to reboot. You hit yes. You lose your signal here for a minute. And boom, we're in the Commodore 64. And this acts just like Commodore 64. You can go into the menu. You can mount floppy drives. You can mount cartridges. You can mount tape. I was just playing, I've been playing Sam's Journey, so I've been taking snapshots. So I'm going to load the snapshot. Now here's the menu for, this is the internal SD, but if I hit that, I can, I forgot to plug the USB key in. So anyway, I'm not going to be able to load that up because I don't have that in there. One thing about BMC64 is that it doesn't load things on the fly. When you boot, everything has to be plugged in that you're going to use, USB keyboard or a USB thumb drive or whatever. I'll power this down though and show that off. So let me plug that in. All right, so now I'm going to plug that up. All right, so now I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to go to my snapshots. I'm going to load a snapshot of a game of Sam's Journey that I was playing. I'm going to go to here. I'm going to pick USB. And there is my snapshot, my Vice snapshot. And once it loads up, there's Sam's Journey. Plays beautifully. See? And then from here, you can just hit reset, do a hard reset or whatever. All the settings that you're used to in Vice, if you've used Vice before, then you know how to use bare metal 64. I'm going to do a hard reset there. But like I said, one thing that makes this really, really pretty cool is that all the machines are represented. So if I go into here and I go into machines, we can even boot into like a Plus4. Now there's two different emulators here. There's the standard Plus4, which is the first 4 configurations. And then there's the Plus4 EMU, which is a more efficient one and only runs on Raspberry Pi 3. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to go to this one. I think this one should work. And now you have a nice and easy +4. You can just load, if you wanted to, you can load in a program file. I don't think I have any program files here for the, let's see here. There we go. So you could load in like Pets Rescue. It's not a program file, it's a D64, so I don't think any of these are programs. These are D64, so I'd have to back out of here. So anyway, I don't have any program files there, but I could just load up a D64. But anyway, you get the gist of that. So yeah, so all the machines here are represented in work. Like I can go into like the Commodore 128. If I wanted to boot that up in Vice, I can just hit this. One thing about the Commodore 128 though that I was tinkering with is that because it has two different video outputs, you do have to go in there and pick your video output. If I remember right, that is under the active display. So I'm going to switch to the VDC and boom. Now I have a Commodore 128, works perfectly, everything works on it. I've tested out several programs, works great. And then I think the only one I haven't tested with you guys right now is the Commodore PET, which works as well. So you can see it's a neat little system. Every game that I've tried so far has worked out really well. I haven't had any incompatibilities. The sound sounds great. Just a really nice little setup. If you want to do just some quick and dirty games with save state support, that's really key for me. I really like having save state support. Makes, you know, trying to find save states and kind of that pain in the butt when you only have a few minutes to play makes it really easy. But other than that, I mean, this is a great little system. I wanted to show you the power light on the 64 right here. The power light works great. Anyway, if you have any questions, just send us some email at podcast@pixelgaiden.com, or you can reach us on Twitter at pixel_gaiden. Thanks for watching the video.